No i osobą, która za chwilę przed Państwem wystąpi, jest Galit Ariel, która sama siebie określa bardzo często mianem digital hippie, tudzież digital rebel. Ariel na co dzień jest współzałożycielem i dyrektor kreatywną w firmie Wonderlands. Firma Wonderlands nie jest ani agencją kreatywną, ani agencją reklamową. Pozycjonuje się w obszarze i nazywa siebie jako laboratorium przestrzennych innowacji.
Na co dzień Ariel doradza marketerom, jak tworzyć i konstruować opowieści, które wciągają i angażują konsumentów, ale też realizują cele biznesowe dla marek. O tym, jak efektywnie kreować te historie, jak poruszać się po scenie, przestrzeni, my jako marketerzy, i po scenie, której Ariel nazywa Theater of Space. Zapraszamy serdecznie.
So please give a warm welcome to Galit. Galit, stage is yours.
Thanks. So today, what I would like to talk to you about is how everything we know about technology and computers is about to change. And with it, the way we experience the world right around us. But before we go there, I want to introduce myself. So I'm a woman of many hats. The first one is being a nerd. And how much of a nerd, you might ask? This much of a nerd. I'm a proud owner of Star Trek full head engineer uniform, and I'm very proud of sharing it with you. The other fact about me is that my background lays within physical design of spaces and objects, and that gives me a different perspective towards immersive tech. I moved afterwards to do brand strategy and experience design, and I even authored a book that talks about the future of immersive tech and how it will change not only digital experiences, but entire political, economic, and even spiritual paradigms. I'm a techno-futurist, and I consult policymakers and companies in a path towards a better tech that benefits societies. And I'm a big techtivist because I believe that we all need to have the tech we deserve. So what's happening right now is we are on the cusp of a new era of space exploration. But I'm not talking about the probes going to Mars. I'm talking about the way that we will explore the physical space that is all around us. And that will change not just the field of human-computer interaction, but rituals and behaviors we have in physical space. So in order to understand immersive computing, and with all these wording and abbreviations of AR, MR, XR, RR, PR, I will give you my one magic slide. It takes about 1.5 minutes, and after that slide, you will comprehend the whole concept of the virtual continuum. And that's actually not a new notion. This was coined in 1994 already. So right there on the left, we have the space that we all know and love. That's physical space. And the physical reality means that we have physical content that is experienced within a physical space, just like here right now. On the very end of this virtual continuum, we have virtual reality. And that's when we experience digital content within a confined digital space. So if we were, for example, to experience a 3D video game through a headset, that's an actual virtual reality. Everything in between is mixed reality, because we do exactly that. We take a little bit of the physical and we take a little bit of the digital and we blend them together. And in there are two core areas, which are augmented virtuality. Did anybody hear about it? Raise your hand. Nice. So most people know it as 360 videos. And this is where we actually take content from the physical space and experience it in a virtual space. So for example, if we would take a 360 video of Mount Everest and we'll use a headset to experience it, we actually augmented the virtual world. We added content from the physical world to the virtual one. And last but not least is my precious augmented reality. And what I love about augmented reality is the fact that it is the closest to our physical world that we use and we're familiar with, but we add this limitless potential of digital content straight into it. And I love augmented reality also for what it represents. The word itself, to augment, literally means that we add, amplify, and enhance the physical space. So for all the VR fans in the crowd that claim that virtual reality is the most immersive experience we can have, I always have a little say, and that is, I know a platform that is fully immersive. It has a social layer built into it. We know how to use it, and it's free. And that is physical reality. It is the most immersive platform we can have, and the idea of adding layers to it is what fascinates me, and what technology in my mind is set to do. Technology is meant to better the human experience. And when we talk about spatial computing, we're talking about an evolution and a phase that is, in my mind, more important than the World Wide Web. Because here we're talking about the actual World Wide Web, where we will be able to connect stupid objects and layer digital interfaces on top of them to make every space around us interactive. And we talk a lot about the computational part of spatial computing, what devices we will use, what networks we will use to enhance it and use it, the battery power we need. But we don't talk enough about the spatial element of spatial computing, which is the real challenge of these new technologies. Because creating digital experiences behind a screen is easy. Well, I won't undermine your work. It's not easy, but it's easier than trying to blend them into the physical space. This is the most immersive experience that was ever made. Disney understood years ago that we want to imagine, but we also want the interaction of color and scent and tactility. We love technology, but we also want to be present. And that is a valuable lesson and a parting point for anyone doing digital technology that is embedded in physical space. And let me explain to you why it is so important. Well, as humans, we are basically framed and defined by physical space. From the moment we are born and until we die, our interaction with the world is what defines our reality. The idea of space being a substance is not new. The ancient Greeks actually figured out that there must be something in this empty space around us that creates the world around us, and they called it the atom. They created the idea of metaphysics, and they are actually the ones that created all the physics and the technology we have today. The word technology is a word that is derived by Greek. So they understood that there's a physical substance and a physical meaning to our existence. And then our biological explanation to the way we react to space is related to the way that our amazing biological machine, which is our bodies and our brains, are working. So we are an amazing biological machine, and the way it works is pretty simple. We have input, that is our senses. This input is sent into our brain. It's processed there, and that's where we define reality and the world around us. We unpack our reality on a sensory level. So I think therefore I am is perhaps true, but I experience therefore I am is even truer. Because physical space is essential to the human experience. Our entire physical sense of being and our identity is based on the interactions we have with the world around us, from the things we touch to the people we interact with. This is what defines our world, but also the way we see ourselves. And there is a close connection between the physical and mental space. It is so close that even the smallest alterations in one will shape the other. Mild sensations of hunger or tiredness will change our behavior completely and the way we experience our day or our world altogether. And there are a lot of proven research done about more dramatic changes that are related to our environment, like famine or war, that will change our entire DNA and change our constructs for generation. So we are highly influenced by the world that we experience around us. And that also changes our sense of self. So you might have woken up today and said, I know who I am. But none of you can guarantee to me you will know who you will be tomorrow. Because even though we like to think we know who I am, we know it right now, right here. We are very different to who we were yesterday, and we're definitely going to be different tomorrow or the next year. And our perspective of the world is so subjective that William Shakespeare framed it really beautifully. All the world is a stage. This world is our stage, and we are obviously the main characters. The conflict comes from the fact that we all think we are the main characters, right? And everyone else are just bystanders or minor participants. And now, in order to make it a little bit more complex, we decided to add a third space, and that's the digital space. So the digital space might be intangible, but I never refer to it as unreal. Because anything that we can sense and experience is part of our reality. And today we live in a reality where the digital space is mediating between our B space, our presence in physical space, and our mental space. Literally almost everything we do is determined and interacted with digital interaction. Every object in this room, every person you have met today, every cell in your body have been touched by technology. We are even altering the physical space to adapt the behaviors that were changed by digital interaction. From lanes that are specifically made for people that text, to streetlights that emit the light on the pavement, knowing that we normally look down way more than we look up. And the next phase, when we adapt immersive technology, will blend these three spaces together into a new nexus, where atoms, neurons, and pixels are going to become one. And then you might ask, Galit, why theater then? Why are we not using the metaphor of gaming? Why are you not using web design as a metaphor for this new interaction? Well, you might be asking that question because your theatrical experience is based on a paradigm that we know in the West, where we have this theater, which is the medium, the play is the content, the actor is a performer, we are the audience, and the play mechanics is the experience. But you shouldn't be so old-fashioned, because this is not the essence of theater. The word theatron, which is also from Greek, actually means ways of seeing, and it refers to any performance and any real-time experience that you might have. It includes slam poetry, it includes concerts, it includes any experience that you have with someone else in physical space. And it represented, in the early ages, something that was very socially important. This was where drama, tragedy, and comedy were utilized in order to poke at cultural, political, and religious paradigms. And the truth is that the theater had been the cutting edge in creating engagement in real time. In theater, you have to combat not only for the instant attention, but for any disruption you have in physical space. And you have to create a meaningful experience that stays with the user after they leave the space. So, how will our physical space change with immersive technology? Well, the first thing that will happen is the whole way we interact with the physical world is going to be changed. We will be able to reimagine surfaces and spaces in new ways, just via our touch, our movement in the space. Everything can be connected to digital input and output. Navigation in space can be something completely different. Instead of moving from A to B in the shortest or most efficient way, we will look for paths that are richer, that can be more interactive. We will be able to leave messages and follow soundtracks in physical space, leaving digital breadcrumbs wherever we go. And it's not just about adding things, it's also about subtracting things. Because we will be able to eliminate things from our physical space. It might seem like a great idea, especially if you dated all my ex-boyfriends, but it also raises a lot of questions about what will we start editing out from our physical world. We will be able to emulate ourselves in characters that are virtual. We will be able to play with invisible things within our living room. And what I found even more interesting is that we will reroute spatial rituals and the way we interact with existing objects. This is a great project that was made by Alexander Rosenberg, and by using these binoculars that are placed in the Washington Park in New York, you could actually see events from the past that happened in that same space. So we will have to think about site-specific experiences and about the context of what we create. And we will start behaving and moving in the world in new ways. The beauty of augmented reality is beyond the visual aspect that we already know or have been using. We will be able to mix our senses together. So we will be able to see the sounds, to feel the data. We will have a new digital synesthesia. And this is one of my favorite examples. Can you turn on the sound?
It's when we record audio in space.
This is a test of talking, and what happens when we record audio in space. There's no audio in space. There's no audio when we record audio.
Thank you.
UK. Thank you. UK. Thank you.
So think about the fact that anything we could create digitally can become a reality around us. And beyond that, we will be able to mind stream our imagination and our thoughts in real time. This is a real capturing of the brain signals from a person that is watching this image on the left. So this was done 5 years ago, and it's pretty blurry, but you can see that we can now decipher our brain waves into imagery and sound. And that is quite amazing. So the most important thing when we will be creating these digital experiences in physical space is to remember, yes, content is king, engagement is queen, but context is going to be everything. We will need to think about all these things. We'll have to think about space as a real substance. This is a world where the whole space around us will become a digital sandbox. We'll be able to manipulate objects, our bodies, and space ourselves. What will these hybrid aesthetics will look like when we're not bound to the physical but still dependent on it? What would spaces be like when they are layered with multiple experiences at the same time, when we have portals into new worlds and transition? And what happens around you when you create the experience is going to be detrimental, because physical space is not a closed system. And of course, storyscaping, because we'll have to balance the private and the public when we create content. So if we move into content, the age of storytelling is going to be over. We are going to start creating story world and storyscapes. And why is that? Well, designing experiences for those who do anything live or anything digital is a little bit like magic. So you need all the hat tricks, but you also need an audience that wants to participate. And once the magic is gone, it's gone. So we'll be able to add narratives, amazing creatures and features to the world, but we'll have to create such rich narratives that a linear storyline is just not going to cut it. We'll have to really think in terms of transmedia, of nonlinear storytelling in order to be able to comprehend with the adjusting things that happen in the world. And we'll have to figure out how to opt in and out of things. This is my ideal Monday, where every cloud becomes a fluffy kitten. And that's fantastic. But the question is that your perfect Monday? And what is it that you would like to see? And what is it that will be placed in our physical environment? Star Trek reference, obviously. This is actually a great example of what happens when you don't control the story. This was captured in a Renaissance fair, where a few Star Trek fans actually showed up and pretended to be exploring the humans doing silly, silly things. And this is also really interesting, because what happens when you have these two narratives happen deliberately in the same time? How do you treat people that are living one reality or one augmented reality with people that are living another augmented reality? Or how do you prevent it if you want to? We will be able to mix so many things together, like artistic expressions that are able to be performed in different spaces. This is the Royal Shakespeare Company's XR experience that is experienced in your living room. And again, everything is a great idea. The question is, what are you creating around these digital capabilities in order to really deliver either something new or something that is profoundly rooted with the existing? And decluttering all this digital noise is going to be the hardest task. If we are having issues today with pop-up banners, what happens when they come into our world right here? So when we're thinking about immersive content, we really have to think about the experiential value we're building beyond the monetary and X-commerce, because nobody built the television just to sell ads. And we'll have to balance public and private aspects of the experience in order to guarantee that we're respectful to both and we create the best experience. Allowing people to opt in and out, and to make sure that we create rich story worlds with linear and non-linear solutions. To make a fluid sense of reality, and to think about the consequences when we change it. And to think about digital inclusivity and tech ethics, appropriation, agency, and privacy. And the hardest bit of all is, of course, the humans. Because all of a sudden, we will give the agency of storytelling and participation to every user and every person that is even spectating the content in real life. We're going to have new creators and new heroes of immersive experiences, and that will change the whole idea of content creation. Because people are weird, and they do weird things in physical space. So when we design digital experiences that will be immersed in physical space, you don't have to think about your ideal client. Think about your weird cousin. Your weird cousin is going to be the one using it and abusing it. So if we prepare for that, we have to ask ourselves, what are the options that we have now in terms of who's telling the story and who's manipulating it? So first of all, we're going to have objects that are going to tell stories.
Spring Hollow in the 1880s. The spring water. The number one question visitors ask.
So packaging is going to become not just an information conveyor, but also a storyteller, an interactive entity that will allow your user to connect to the brand. We're also entering an era of virtual being. These two models are making more in a month than most of us make in a year. There are even talent agencies for virtual models, and these models might be invisible, but they have millions of followers on social media, and they even have their own clothing lines. And we'll also be able to alternate ourselves and represent new selves via virtual and augmented reality. So this is Gemini Man. Don't watch it unless you want to see real amazing VFX being done. So in this movie, they actually used Will Smith himself and used facial recognition that was rendered almost in real time to convey his younger self. So he was playing his current self and his younger self in the same time. Now that's probably a much better alternative than plastic surgery. But then the question is, will we know who we see when we see them? And to what end will we be altering ourselves? There's a reason why Instagram already banned beautifying filters. And that is, there's a new phenomena that is called Snapchat dysmorphia, where people actually go to plastic surgeons with their filtered selves and ask to resemble that. And another question is, if our existence that is normally finite will be infinite, will we ever really die? So we've seen, this is the Roy Orbison hologram that is going on tour 20-something years after he died. Now, as fans, we might think it's a great idea, but who gave whom the right to use your image way after you died? I know my mom will have me coming to family dinners way after I'm gone, but I don't know if I approve of that. And the last question is whether we will truly create experiences that connect us, or experiences that place us in metaverses, in alternate and separate realities. This is probably one of my favorite augmented reality experiences, and it was created in the Bay Area in San Francisco to celebrate the 60 years of the Summer of Love. And what you would literally do is you will plant love messages and suspend them in the physical space around San Francisco. And people would come and unlock these love messages and share their own. And that was one of the best examples of a truly inclusive, positive, and space or location appropriate interaction. So when we explore our augmented self, we really have to think about what will happen to the role of the viewer that will move from a spectator to a participant and even a narrator. How will we create new and alternative heroes attached to ourselves or completely new? how will our sense of self and identity will shift even further? What will happen to our body when everything we do, every gesture that we have will become an interface? I predict that AR will succeed everywhere except of Italy, because the system will crash in 5 minutes. But it is a real question when we talk about cultural appropriation and the way we use gestures and the way we express ourselves. Will gesture be the new emoji? I think yes. And a new way of engaging. This idea of being will become an idea of ongoing becoming, because we will be able to become different things every day, every moment, this time deliberately. And of course, what will happen to us socially? Will we be creating digital tribes where social AR will create real interaction in real space? That will be awesome. So the spatial immersive experience is going to be like theater, but everything that we meant theater to be, this exciting space that is inclusive, that asks the right questions, where immersive tech will be the media, the physical space will be the medium itself, the user, a performer, a spectator, and a narrator, and the experience mechanics will be the interaction itself, and we are not even knowing how will it change, and where both atoms, pixels, and neurons will become the experience. So I really ask you to stop looking for killer apps and start looking for killer experiences today, and let this voyage begin. But one more thing, and that's always the most important thing. I depicted here a future that is truly exciting, that is truly positive, and that is very, very possible. But in order to make it not just a possible future, but a viable future, we really have to think about what it means when everything around us can be manipulated. We are all great people, and we all want to use this technology for the best. But we also know that great technology is used by bad people too. So before we do the same mistakes that we've done with the internet and with social media, I think we need to do a social contract and think about what it means to be able to change the world around us. And these are just a few pointers that I suggest. First of all, make experiences that are consensual and honest. We can't create alternative realities without explicit and ongoing conscious consent of the human. I know it's a drag. I know GDPR is a drag. I'm a creative. I want to make everything, and I don't want to ask permission. But we are dealing with people's realities here. This is not something that they'll be able to switch off or shut down. So we really have to apply high level of self-consciousness and think less about how much we want to hook people and keep them on the platform, but how much value we'll give them. We have to respect them, and we have to respect their data, because I am not an offline cookie. We have to think about privacy and agency for every person that is not only participating voluntarily, but for the people that are in that space while our users or consumers are using it. And we have to be respectful to the physical space itself. And we really have to make an effort to truly reconnect people with spaces, with culture, and with themselves, because presence is a present. We don't need to hijack anyone. We don't need to subvert their sense of reality. We need to allow them to choose to connect, because this is the true value of being human, and this is the true beauty of technology. And we really have to start creating things that have real value. Because digital junk is still garbage. And in the light of the climate crisis, I think we have an information crisis. And we have a data diabetes that we have to solve. Because the more garbage we will make, the more consumers will find better alternatives. So I think that if we do apply these rules and these ethical guidelines in mind, we will be able to create alternative, amazing, augmented world that would truly amplify and elevate our physical reality. So thank you very much.